Think I can see a fucking halo. About to meet my maker, brought a double cup of Drano. Some soda for the flavor, uncontrollable behavior with some psychopathic tendencies. Lonely as your neighbor with the bitches, he got special needs. Word to my denim fiends, I'm Kennedy on ecstasy. My flavor from the nature, need an acre for my recipe. They got my soul, but I don't let them take the rest of me. My melody, a little like Kenny G's, it's heavenly. And my denim Taylor. Me in action rapping, I'll be fucking with the fader. Sipping mine eraser, actually. We rapping for the fuck of it. Taking money from you, gon' smack you out in public. You the Republican government. Abundance of substance, have a consumption of fuck a bitch. With your banana republic fit, go suck a dick. And your bitch looking like cousin it, the ugliest.
I said it must be the drugs, they got us thinking crazy shit. Groupie bitches wild enough to suck a baby stick. Cadillacs is getting whipped 185th. Just for that sizzle, Gore-Tex in case of drizzle.
I said it must be the drugs, they got us thinking crazy shit. Looking up into the clouds where the angels sit. They looking down, keeping watch till I'm dead. So how'd I get this red dot on my head?
Kobe. What's up, guys? I'm Student Operator, and today we're going over the Trijicon RMR Type 2 RM06. So the first order of business, if you guys aren't familiar with the channel, if this is your first time here, whoever leaves the most messed up comment down in the comment section of whatever previous video gets a shout out in the next video that comes out. So these are coming from the Shaw Raid Pouch video review. And the first messed up comment is Cole Dickinson, who said, "I could hear my stepbrother, moan every time you said dangler." To which I'm assuming his stepbrother, Bryce Dickinson, replied to the comment, "All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and move out." For real, all you guys down in the comment section, doing what you're doing, love you guys, keep it up. So, as always, full disclosure, I purchased this optic. It was not given to me by Trijicon. I have no kind of relationship with Trijicon. I bought this with my own money. I actually got it at dealer pricing back in my college days when I worked at a gun shop. So I bought this, no funny business, no pressure to put out a positive review. I'm just gonna go ahead and apologize in advance. This is gonna be a pretty long video, but we're gonna discuss a whole lot of things, and I promise you, if you stick around and watch until the end, you're gonna learn something. So bear with me.
Bye.
So the Trijicon RMR Type 2 RM06, what is it? Well, it's a small, miniaturized red dot sight that you commonly find mounted to the slides of handguns. However, the RMR, the original one, was actually never really intended to find its way onto being a pistol-mounted optic. They were originally designed to sit on top of the Trijicon ACOG. Now, when you took that sighting system off of a rifle platform and put it on a handgun slide that is constantly reciprocating, you run into a lot of issues with optics that, frankly, were never designed to do that job. So that led to the Trijicon Type 2 RMR. The main differences between the two are electrical connections, but there are also some electronic programming differences between the two. But the Type 1 really isn't prevalent anymore. If you're gonna buy one, just buy a Type 2 and have a happy life. So why do we even want to have a slide mounted optic on a pistol in the first place? Well, there's a lot of really good reasons that I wrote down and left my notebook over here, so hang tight until right now. So the first big advantage to having a red dot sight on a pistol over using open sights is it reduces the number of focal planes that you have to pay attention to. If you think about using rear sight, front sight, target, that's 3 different focal planes that you have to align in your mind. And you also have to take your eyes off of the threat or target to pay more attention to the alignment of the sights. when you have a red dot, it allows you to stay threat focused and stare at the threat and superimpose the dot over it. So that's really good for situational awareness, and it's so much easier for your mind to process what's going on. And I'm an idiot, so if we can make it easier for my mind, I'm all about it. Red dot sights on pistols also offer the advantage of for people with aging eyes. Let's face it, as you get older, your eyesight deteriorates. If you're older watching this video, well, congratulations for making it through the rap music in the intro. By the way, do you guys like that music choice? Red dot music, and we're reviewing a red dot? Like, come on, man. That was genius, and you guys gotta give me credit for that. Another advantage that having a red dot on a pistol definitely brings to the table is being able to see the dot moving as you're gripping the firearm and going through the process of depressing the trigger. It allows you to see more easily the movement of the gun itself and where it's going to impact over having just iron sights. And let's be honest, guys, you all actually bought RMRs just for the clout on Instagram. So first we're going to go over features on the Trijicon RMR Type 2. Now we're specifically talking today about the RM06 model, which has a 3¼ MOA dot. That means that at 100 yards, the dot is going to cover 3.25 inches of whatever you're aiming at. It should be noted that Trijicon does make this same optic in different reticle sizes. So if you have different things that you want, or let's say you want a bigger dot or a smaller dot, well, you're in luck because they got them. They are designated as different models though, which I don't know the names of most of them off the top of my head, but they have a 1 MOA dot model. That one is the RM09, but then they also have a 6¼ MOA dot and I think they have a 9? I don't know why you want that. I personally find the 3¼ MOA dot to be absolutely perfect for applications where it's mounted on a pistol, because the size of the dot is about half the width of your front sight post. So it's not so small that it's hard to find, but it's not too big to allow you to have a really precise shot. The Trijicon Type 2 RMR is a forged aluminum housing. I believe it's 7075 T6, but I did not look that up. So if I'm wrong, it's not my fault because I was lazy. It is also waterproof to 20 meters, and that is if you are using the little plate that goes on the bottom of the RMR that you can get from most manufacturers. And that seals the system and makes it waterproof to 20 meters. And I believe that's for 60 minutes, but again, did not look that up, so do some research. You can use this optic in either a manual adjusting LED or a automatically adjusting LED. I far prefer using the manual adjustments, and we will get into that later on in the video. The Trijicon RMR also boasts as being one of the most durable optics that you can mount on a pistol, and that's due largely to the shape. See, the top of the optic here has this curved shape to it. It's kind of bowed in, but what that does is it brings impact points, because you're never going to hit it in the middle here. You're going to hit it on one of the corners, which transfers the stress straight down into the base away from the lens. So this shape has actually been patented by Trijicon, so that's why they're holding on to the title of most durable. However, they also have one of the longest battery lives on a pistol optic, running off of one CR 2032 battery, and you can realistically get 1 to 2 years. However, Trijicon quotes 2 to 5. But come on, it's a battery. They cost what, like $1? Change it once a year, pick a date or some occasion once a year. Let's say like the beginning of the summer, your birthday or Christmas or your anniversary, if you actually remember that date. Just pick one day or like a month per year and change your battery during that time frame and you will be fine. And also for that year between battery changes, this thing stays on and it is not an issue. The Trijicon Type 2 RMR also has a button lockout feature. So you can set it and forget it, and you never have to worry about bumping it and changing your brightness settings inadvertently. That's really good if you have like one brightness setting, you want it right there all the time, you can just set it and forget it. Now, also, if you're not in that button lockout mode, after 16 hours of not pressing buttons, it automatically reverts to a power saving setting, which I actually found to be absolutely perfect for home defense type stuff for me. With a Surefire X300 1000 lumen weapon light mounted on the end of my pistol, it gives me the perfect op brightness to use both with the weapon light on and without the weapon light on in a darkened place like my house. So there's a couple features that go into the Trijicon RMR that really make it probably the most durable pistol optic on the market currently as of summer of 2020. Those three things are the overall shape, the material that's made out of, and the improved wiring connections over the original Type 1 RMR. Now, I'm not going to purposefully destroy this optic because Aaron Cowan from Sage Dynamics has done that for me. Roll his clip now. So that's not my clip for copyright purposes. That is 100% belonging to Aaron Cowan of Sage Dynamics, but my channel isn't monetized, so I don't actually think I can get in trouble for that. But here's my clip. Yeah. One of my biggest gripes with most YouTube reviews, and one of the big reasons I decided to start doing this channel, is because I didn't think people were testing things long enough. Anyone can take a product out of the box and, oh, here are the features. Who cares? That's why I talked about it so little, because everyone else on YouTube already has. If you want more information about the features, go watch their videos. I'm sure you probably have or are about to. So we're gonna talk about what it's like to actually use it, because there is a learning curve when you go to start using a pistol optic. One of the biggest ones is acquiring the dot when you draw the handgun. So, while this system, being on a pistol, makes it much easier to be much more precise, fast, accurate, all that good stuff, you basically have to relearn how to present a pistol. So one of the big things that you're doing, whereas with an iron sight gun, you're kind of finding that front sight on your way out to full presentation. With a red dot, I'm staring right at my target. In my case, it is myself in my phone screen while I'm recording videos on selfie mode. So I'll just stare at my own face and pull the gun up. So you're just staring at your target, remaining target focused. But when you put the gun up, just due to natural muscle memory and hand-eye coordination, you're basically always just looking right down over the top of the slide, right over top of the sights, and your dot is going to be there with practice virtually every time. You guys will note that I said with practice. There is absolutely a learning curve. This takes time to learn how to do this. But once you do learn, I promise you'll be faster, more accurate, more consistently precise. The advantages of having a red dot on your pistol far outweigh the cons, if you will, which aren't even cons, they're more of concerns. but there's so many little ways around that. The best way to shorten that learning curve is absolutely education. And that can be in two forms. That I held up a one, I meant two. The first form is actually going and taking a class from a professional instructor. There's nothing like having a one-on-one teacher to just teach you things. However, I wouldn't know that because I've never done that. I've never taken a class as of yet. I would definitely like to in the future, but I can oftentimes watch people do things and learn what to do and how to do them just by watching. So that's saved me a lot of money from going to take classes up until now. But I am getting ready to take some classes in the future, so that's going to change. If you're looking for knowledge on shooting a pistol with a red dot, Sage Dynamics, just like stop watching me, hop on that channel. I actually don't stop watching right now, like watch it after, because that actually kind of hurts my ratings where you guys like don't watch the whole video. So yeah, keep watching. Anyway, Aaron Cowan has a massive library of videos of how to do all kinds of things with the RMR. How to shoot if the optic fails and you can't see through the window, if it's cracked or blocked with mud or anything. He has videos about how to present the guns that you find the dot every time. He has videos detailing all of this, and you can watch his full torture test. I believe he earlier this year posted his review where he got his up to 20,000 rounds. I am halfway there. I'm at 10,000 rounds on this optic. So I have beat the hell out of it, and I have a lot of time running one, but not nearly as much as other people out there. And he is also a professional instructor, so he can put out a lot more knowledge that you guys, if you're thinking about trying this out, you probably want. Just go binge watch his channel.
Shooter ready?
Hit the buzzer.
1.08.
Now that I'm done riding Aaron's dick, we're going to continue talking about what it's like to actually use this thing. So, as with anything else mechanical or electronic, it can and will eventually fail. However, you can decrease the likelihood of that happening when you need it by doing some preventative maintenance. The optic is held onto the handgun by screws. Now, when you install these, you want to put Loctite on them and torque them to a specific torque specification. I had my slide work done by Maple Leaf Firearms. With their supplied screws, they advised a torque pound or a torque value of 11 foot-pounds. So that's what I did, and I haven't had any issues. However, screws can come loose, especially on certain platforms like the MOS. You can have different things happening that go wrong. But checking your optic, even just like giving it a little wiggle like this and making sure that it's not loose on the gun. And also, one of the big preventative maintenance things that you can do is to change your batteries once a year. Batteries aren't going to die if you change them before they die. That's how batteries work. Another thing that can happen, and this has never stopped me from being able to make accurate shots or aim, but especially if you carry appendix, as your body's moving around, you're doing your different things throughout the day, your calisthenics, whatever. Dead skin, dust, all kinds of just crap can pile up in the optic window, which basically becomes a bowl. So one thing that I do to keep the lens clean is, like, every couple hours, I just wipe it out, just like that. Just my t-shirt. It's probably not the best thing to do. Some guy who's really into high quality glass and taking care of it, he's probably watching this and shitting his pants right now, but I don't care. It's built for work. So I just take my t-shirt, my thumb, swipe it out real quick. You know, I can turn somewhere, turn away from people where they're not looking, whatever. But that's one thing that you can do to keep the optic window clean. So now we're going to get into manual versus auto adjust mode. So we're going to start out by talking about the correct option, which is manual adjust. So when I get ready for work in the morning, when I'm getting ready to leave the house, whatever I'm doing, I already know where my preferred brightness setting is. So I go ahead and set it to that before I even walk out the door. However, it's really easy to adjust the brightness on the fly, and it can look totally inconspicuous. Let's say you're outside, it's a bright sunny day, you have your brightness set for whatever setting you typically use outside bright sunny day conditions. It's as easy as, just reaching down your belt line. It can kind of look like you're scratching yourself, and you can just bump that brightness down one notch. As you're walking back outside, you just bump it right up. Let's say you're getting into your car, walk out of the store, you're getting into your car, you just reach down, bump it up. It's really not an issue. You have, on the ejection port side of the gun is your decrease brightness button, and on the slide release side of the gun, you have your turn the brightness up button. So I'll get a little bit closer so that you guys can see those. You can clearly see there's a minus right there and a plus sign on that one. So it's really not hard. These buttons are very tactile. I will say when you first get the optic, they are a bit stiff, but after about a week or two of adjusting the brightness or sit on the couch, just push the buttons a lot while you're watching TV or something. But these buttons break in very nicely, and they're very tactile that you can feel when they go, even through a t-shirt. So you can know exactly where your brightness is if you don't want to use the button lockout, which I don't, actually. I know some people are a big fan of that, but I found that for various lighting conditions, I have preferred settings that I like to keep them at. And I can kind of judge based on ambient lighting what I need to have my brightness at, because I've been carrying with an RMR for about 1 year and 2 months. So I've kind of figured out where my brightness needs to be by this point. So when I leave the house in the morning, I'm getting ready for work, I am 1 step down for max brightness. And that gives me a really clean, precise sight picture for outdoor. I mean, it's not too bright. It's bright enough that it's there and easily visible. However, if I step into a building or something, let's say I'm at work and I step into the shop space, which usually we aren't in the office during the day or even the workshop, so the lights are usually out and I'm usually too lazy to turn them on. But even in a dark setting, I can still draw that handgun if need be, and the dot's not too bright to make consistent hits. It also works perfectly if I happen to walk into a restaurant or a gas station or something. It's not at a place where I typically need to worry about it. However, where I do start to adjust the brightness settings is if I go into a large store without a lot of windows. So I'm talking about like grocery stores, Walmart, Sam's Club, whatever you guys got near you, wherever you are in the country or the world watching this. If you're from out of the country, drop a comment, tell me where you live, tell me what the gun laws are like so we can laugh at you. Anyway, when I go into those stores, I typically bump it down 1 more, and I bring it down to 1 setting below max brightness. 2 settings below max brightness, 1 setting down from where I typically am, which is 1 notch below max brightness. Now when I walk outside, I just bump it up. Also, typically about an hour before sunset, I bump it down 1, and then when the sun is fully down, I bump it down 1 more. And that actually brings it to the same setting as the power setting mode, which I found to be extremely usable in the dark, both with the weapon light on and with the weapon light off. So, the problem with automatic adjustment. The automatic adjustment setting, it sounds great, but when you really start shooting, it's kind of not. See, multiple different lighting conditions can exist right in your little space all at one time. For example, I'm out here in my garage. I came up from my mom's basement for once to actually make this video. But let's say that door over there was open and inside it was dark. If I draw my handgun now and it's on automatic brightness setting for whatever reason, I must be an idiot, the dot's going to be way too bright and I can't easily and rapidly adjust it. Whereas when it's on manual, I can literally reach up with my thumb and adjust the brightness in about a second if I have that amount of time. But the other main issue that comes in with automatic adjustment RMRs is weapon lights. See, the optic, it bases the brightness that it's going to set it at at what it sees right in here. Your weapon light pushing all the lumens down range, it doesn't see that. So it doesn't adjust accordingly to that. So it's a huge issue, and I'm going to play some B-roll clips here of showing you some various lighting conditions and how you want to have absolute control over the brightness of your optic. That way you can rapidly adjust on the fly if need be. So I set my optic to what the brightness would be in various lighting conditions if it were in automatic adjustment mode, and showed you the flaws and why one guy, just a civilian, not even an operator, not a cop, not whatever, I'm just a dude who shoots a lot. Why, in my opinion, manual adjustment is the way to go. So here we are, roughly 3 yards away from a wall in a pretty dark environment. The dot is very dim to accommodate for that. Now, we can see the dot fine, and the camera doesn't pick it up the best, but I can actually see the surrounding area pretty well. But as soon as you kick on the weapon light, you lose the dot. Now here we are at a little bit further of a distance, roughly 10 yards, pointing at a white wall with some tools on it. Now, again, the dot is fine. You can see a little bit better that it is easily picked up and not too bright. And if we kick on the weapon light, you can actually still see the dot a little bit in the window. The camera doesn't pick it up the best, but you can still find the dot. So here we are in a more darkly lit room, looking into a bright room with the lights on. So in this room, the dot is easily visible, perfect right where it would be with auto adjust on. But as soon as we shift over into the bright room, we pretty much lose the dot. The camera doesn't do a perfect job. I can still barely see the dot with my naked eye, but it is barely there, and it is not nearly as prevalent as it should be to easily use. So the Trijicon RMR is a open emitter optic. That means that you have a little bowl down in here. The emitter sits right underneath that screw and projects a dot onto the glass in the window. So one thing that can happen if you are carrying like on an outside the waistband holster, and this has happened to me out in the rain, you can get water that gets up onto the emitter and onto the glass, which makes it a little bit harder to shoot accurately when the optic is wet. It's just the way it is. Not a huge concern with concealed carry because the optic is covered. However, I recently shot a tactical 2-gun match where I was just running in a Ragnarok outside the waistband, and it was usable. I mean, I was able to get good hits, but it definitely was not a happy camper. And that is an issue with closed emitter or with open emitter optics. I can't wait until closed emitter optics finally catch up with open emitter optics for pistols in terms of battery life and durability. So far, they're just not there, but I'm really excited for the future of that. When the Aimpoint Acro version 2 finally comes out and they improve the battery life, hands down I'm buying one, because closed emitter optics rock for adverse conditions. However, right now I believe that the benefits of the RMR outweigh the benefits of the Aimpoint Acro. However, that's a whole other soapbox. So what happens to the RMR when it gets wet? So when the emitter has water on it, it can do a bunch of different things. So I've heard. My only experience is that it looks how it would look if you had an astigmatism. You kind of have like a bright center and like not a huge, but you have a nice cloud going around it. Almost like the donut of death reticle found in EOTech, where you have but like fill in the circle, and like that's what it looks like. You still have a really bright center, but then it's still kind of like covering up everything else that you want to see. Now, after a couple weeks, like it was usually usable, like it wasn't unusable. People had recommended different things to dry it off, like a hair dryer. Making it wet again and then drying it with a hair dryer. I honestly just let it go, and I was too lazy to do any of those things. And after like a week and a half, it went away, and it just cleared up on its own. So I guess that's what you get for being lazy.
Stand by.
If you guys haven't picked up on this already, having a optic mounted on the slide of your handgun is kind of a little bit of work. If you're more lackadaisical about firearm ownership or concealed carry, this probably isn't for you. If you don't press check your gun before you leave the house, this probably isn't for you. This is going to be on another level of maintenance that you probably don't want to get into. You should definitely get into those habits. However, it's not going to be something that everybody does. So if you're not going to be the kind of person that's going to check your brightness settings before you leave, or you're never going to make sure that the optic is securely screwed into the top of the slide, or if you're going to forget to change the batteries once a year, this you might just want to stick to irons. So congratulations, you're still watching because you're not a lazy piece of shit, and you're actually willing to do the maintenance and the checks to make sure that your optic is ready to use, and you're seriously considering buying one. Congratulations, you're probably an adult. So how do we go about getting a optic on the slide of your pistol? So there's a couple different routes that you can go. You have a mounting system created by your manufacturer. You can get your slide machined, you can get a pocket milled out, or you can buy an aftermarket slide. We're kind of going to go over the pros and cons of these different systems so you can kind of get some information to go and do some further research to figure out which one's going to work best for you. So starting out with, Glocks, because if you don't shoot Glock, you're wrong. You always come out and interrupt my YouTube video making.
It's all right.
So starting out with Glocks, because Glocks are, for good reason, one of the most popular handguns on the market today. I believe the most popular. So Glock offers a system, the MOS system, the modular optic system. And it has some issues. It's far from the best mounting system on the market for handguns, and it honestly has some real shortcomings that I wish Glock had put more than like 30 seconds of thought into, it seems like. So if I'm trying to think the best way to word this, like, it's fine for target shooting. If all you do is target shoot, you go out, you shoot maybe like 200-300 rounds a year, it's gonna be okay, probably. However, if you're watching this channel, you probably appreciate things that are built to be a little bit more durable than that. At least I hope so. It's kind of the audience I'm going for, people who are into hard use, in-depth reviews. So one of the biggest issue with the Glock MOS system is the mounting plates themselves. They are a cast metal, and it is, the plates themselves are pretty thick, which brings along some issues with that. One of the biggest issues is that then the screws that go down through the optic and into the plate, due to the sizing, you can only get like a couple threads of the screw into the plate itself, which means that it's putting a lot of stress on just a few little threads, which makes it way easier to either strip the screws or break them, or for them just to come loose. So that's a huge issue right there. Another big issue is in the actual manufacturing itself of the plates. I know a thing or two about metal from my college education in welding engineering, by the way, and also about metal manufacturing. So due to the process that they use to make these plates, a lot of them have like a bow. They're not completely flat. They're not straight. The edges aren't parallel. They're kind of like a little curve going on. So that when you put that plate onto the pistol and the optic onto the plate, it kind of squishes down the plate, which puts tension even more tension on the screws and makes it even easier to strip out those couple threads that are actually holding it down. So it kind of creates a lot of issues. Now, there are some aftermarket plates out there that I've heard of. I haven't tested any because if I put an optic on a handgun, I pretty much just get the slide milled.
2 standing, 3 nailing.
There are some other handgun manufacturers that have created much better systems for mounting a optic to the slide of your handgun. The only ones I have experience with are Glock, so everything I'm saying here is going solely based on what I've heard on the internet. So take that for what it is. FN has their own system, and I've heard that they are actually the best on the market. I know that CZ also has a system, and HK, just at SHOT Show 2020, finally caught up with the rest of the world, and now offers the P30 and the VP9 in optic ready packages. Also, you have Walther, and I believe Canik has one as well. Just don't be poor, just buy a Glock instead of Canik, like, come on. Smith & Wesson has one, and even Springfield, which surprises me. Most people willing to buy an optic, I wouldn't think would buy a Springfield. Aftermarket slides are also another way that you can go about putting a optic on your pistol. Now, you're buying a whole new slide, precision CNC machined, hopefully, unless you're buying one of those like $100 Brownells Glock slides, which I would advise against. However, moving past that, the pros and cons of that, right? So if you ever wanted to sell the gun again, you could just have both slides. Like, let's say somebody doesn't want all that. Well, now you have both slides that you can give out, or you could just put the gun back to its normal configuration and sell the slide off separately and trade in the gun or whatever you're gonna do with it. You're not making any permanent modifications to your pistol. And that's great. And another great benefit of that is that you can not have to send your gun off to get machined, or a part of your gun, a pretty important part, the slide. Because if you send your slide out to be machined, you're gonna be without your gun for a little bit, probably a couple weeks. With the COVID lead times right now, maybe a couple months. If you only have one handgun, that's an issue. But if you can just order a slide and have it delivered straight to you, well, then that takes that wait time out of it and your time without a gun. So the biggest downfall of buying a whole new slide is cost, because usually they're a couple $100. Depending on which manufacturer you go with, it could be anywhere from $100 to, hell, as much as you paid for the fucking gun. So when I set up my gun, I chose to have my slide machined. I had mine done through Maple Leaf Firearms, who absolutely fantastic people to deal with. It's a 2-person operation, a dude and his wife. And I'm pretty sure he does this in his garage. But they did a great job, great customer service. They actually screwed something up on my order and made it more than right. I could not be happier with my experience with Maple Leaf Firearms. Shameless plug for them, not paid, just they're great people to have work done through. They did a Black Friday special for $25 optic cuts. And I was a broke college kid. So what did I do? I got a $25 optic cut. Their usual price is pretty on par with everybody else, like all the big name companies that you see doing it. However, that special, man, I couldn't pass that up. So as we already mentioned, the biggest downfall of having your slide machined is having to physically send your slide to the company. If that's your only handgun, that means you're going to be without a handgun for a little bit. And that is definitely a downside. So hopefully you have more than one handgun that you can just carry whatever other handguns you choose to carry during that time. Luckily I did, so I chose that route. The other downfall is that when you get the slide machined for a specific optic, it's now machined to a specific optic. So if you get your slide machined to fit one specific optic, now when the next latest and greatest comes out next year at SHOT Show, you're not just going to be able to upgrade and bolt that right on. You're going to have another gun machined, or another slide, or whatever route you choose to go. However, it's not very conducive to future-proofing itself. Luckily, the RMR is so popular that there's a lot of other optics coming out that are using the RMR footprint. So there are other optics I could put on this slide if I ever chose to replace this Trijicon with something like a Hollow Sun. However, that is another downfall of actually having your slide machined. However, there is one company doing an optic system that is very, very cool and I'm very interested in. The next time I build out a pistol and I want to put an optic on it, I am 100% doing the Agency Arms Agency Optic System. It's a modular optic system done right. And you guys can go out and research it on your own. I have no experience, so I'm not going to pretend to talk about it, but everything I've seen about it makes this seem like this is the way to mount a optic on a handgun. But it's a little pricey. It's about twice the cost of any other optic cut from any other company. But do your own research on it. I think it's worth it. You may not, and that's cool.
Okay, reload with 4. Stand by at low rate. Gonna do 2 on target 3, 2 on target 4. 2 on target 3, 2 on target 4. Shooter ready. Ready. Stand by. Okay, back out. Release slide.
Now, even as durable as the Trijicon RMR is, I still don't trust it enough to forego iron sights. So there's a lot of different options out there on the market of what kind of iron sights you want to replace your factory irons with when doing a optic on a handgun. Typically you're gonna have to get a little bit taller of sights to be able to see them through the window. And when I'm done this rant, I'm going to add a little B-roll of what it looks like looking through my optics specifically. And so that you guys can kind of get an idea of how the sights line up. If you're familiar with red dots on rifles, you're probably familiar with lower 1/3 co-witness. So what that means is you have your optic window, and then in the lower, roughly the lower third area, you can still see your iron sights through that window. So that if the optic ever fails, you just flip up your irons, or maybe your irons are already up, maybe you have fixed, whatever. You can still see your irons through the window. And I think that that is absolutely necessary when having a pistol mounted optic. You may not, you do you, but for me, I like redundancies and I like fail safes. My irons will still be there if the battery dies, or if the optic isn't set to the correct brightness setting and I can't see the dot. I can still see my iron sights through the window. So who to buy from, right? Like what are your options? There's a whole bunch of different heights. What do you get? So the biggest thing that I found to be most important when doing this whole process myself and figuring it out on my own is to actually contact the manufacturer of who's doing the optic cut for you. So in my case, I reached out to Maple Leaf Firearms. I actually DM'd them on Instagram, and I think I had a response within like 5 minutes. Their customer service is phenomenal. And I was able to ask him, I said, I'm trying to figure out what sights I want to buy while you're doing my optic cut. So I'm trying to figure out how deep into the slide you machine down, and then I can compare that to the height that I need to have over the optic body so I can figure out what height sights I need to buy. And this guy really knows his machining stuff and was able to give me exact measurements down to the 1,000th of an inch so that I was able to go out and find sights that perfectly lined up with exactly where I wanted them in the optic window. Not every manufacturer will do this. I'm very, very partial to manufacturers that will. So that really helped me to be able to get the correct sight picture that I wanted out of my optic. There's a whole bunch of iron sight manufacturers out there that make taller sights. Pretty much all of them do at this point because red dots on handguns have become so prevalent. Trijicon, Ameriglow, Dawson Precision, and pretty much anyone else who makes iron sights makes raised suppressor height iron sights for either seeing over a suppressor mounted to your pistol or to see through the optic window. I personally chose to go with Dawson Precision. And the reason why I did that is because you can order their sights in increments of a few thousandth of an inch. So you can get the sights to be exactly where you want them. For me, I wanted to just barely be able to see my iron sights through the window. I wanted them low and out of the way so that my view through the window was very unobstructed. So I will show that clip right here. Now the Dawson Precision sights are not without their flaws. One of the biggest ones straight off the bat is that they're made out of a carbon steel that's parkerized. That's not the best for rust prevention. So one thing, you lube your gun, throw a little lube on the sights. Just keep them oiled, not a big deal. Little secret though, I haven't done that and they've been fine. After about a year and a couple months of having these sights on the gun, I've probably oiled them like twice and they're fine. However, one of the big downfalls with these sights has come from the hard use that I put this gun through. The rear sight has a set screw in it to hold it down tight. Now, the set screw, I found that if I knock the pistol around a little bit, it likes to come loose. So the last time I tightened it up, I kind of put a shitload of Loctite in there and really cranked down on it. And it hasn't come loose again yet. That was a few months ago, which is impressive. It's about the longest that sight's ever gone without coming loose, but it is a issue. And it's one to be addressed. So if you can live with that, if you're constantly checking your equipment, it's not a huge issue. Put a lot of Loctite on it, tighten it down, it'll probably be fine. So now, as you guys who are still shooting iron sights, or probably if you know much about modifying handguns at all, you know that there's a lot of different types of iron sights out there. You have just blacked out, you have fiber optic, you have night sights, you got all kinds of stuff. For me personally, I prefer to run blacked out sights. I don't want there to be any other dots to be confusing myself with, but that's a personal thing. Some people like night sights. I'm like, I already have an optic on the gun. That's my night sight. And if it fails, if it's dark enough that I need night sights, the weapon light's on. At which point, I can now shoot from the outline of my sights. So night sights on a pistol with an optic, I haven't found to be super necessary. Same with fiber optics. I really don't want another bright red dot in that window. However, one thing that I will say, if you watch Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, again, check out that YouTube channel. If you watch his videos, you'll learn that you really shouldn't even be seeing your sights when you're shooting a red dot equipped handgun. And I have absolutely never even noticed my sights while I'm shooting using the red dot. I have shotguns that have very big, obnoxious red fiber optic sights and a slide mounted optic. And I honestly never even saw the front sight. It's all red dot and target. So not a huge issue, but I personally prefer blacked out sights. I find it, it just makes sense to me, okay? I'm sorry. It just makes sense. Also, if you don't carry a weapon light on your gun, you're wrong. If your gun has the ability to mount a light on it and there's not a light on it, what's your excuse, man? Darkness exists. And unless you got PVS 15s like in your eyes, you can't see in the dark. And you need to be able to see. So buy a weapon light. Okay, done with that. Now, the cost of the Trijicon RMR Type 2. It's a little pricey, just a little bit. I think they retail for about $600. So yeah, it's a lot of money. That's probably more money than the gun you're putting it on. So there's a really big consideration that you have to take in there of how worth it is this to me. Now, I did not pay full price for this. I paid dealer pricing from my time working in a gun shop. And I paid about $400 for it. I think it was like $420 after tax. Yeah, $420 turn up. It's a fairly expensive optic. but good shit ain't cheap and cheap shit ain't good. It's just the way it goes. If you're someone who's going to be using this all the time, I promise you it's 100% worth the money. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I found the advantages to be very, very good. However, not everything is, or nothing is unbreakable. And this is actually I had to send this optic in to Trijicon to get repaired. And I'm going to tell you guys that story. So, like I said, I used to work at a gun shop, right? And back in the vault, we had a stack of RMRs. I got my income tax. You know, that's how us poor people buy. That's how we buy things that cost a lot of money. So I got my tax return in, and I went out and I finally bought that RMR. I mean, I had it picked out for months. It had been sitting there since I had started my employment with this company, and it sat there for quite a while, and probably sat there for a while before I even got there. So, and that's going to come into the story in about 20-30 seconds. So I bought the RMR, mounted it up, everything was great, right? I typically shoot this gun about 1,000 rounds a month, and after 4 months and roughly 4,000 rounds, the battery died. And I'm like, okay, this is a little weird. This shouldn't be happening. So, but you know, whatever, no big deal. It's a battery, we'll just change it, right? So I took the optic off the gun. I took the old battery out, put a new battery in, a brand new Energizer right from the box, right? And the optic wouldn't turn back on. So I'm like, huh, that's weird. Is this like a dud battery, or you know, what's going on? Am I just not doing something right? Like, do I gotta push a button or something? Like, I'm researching everything I can, trying everything I can. I threw that same battery in another optic, it turned right on. I threw it back in the RMR, still nothing. I reached out to Trijicon's customer service, which very quickly and efficiently informed me that actually should not be happening, and sent me a return shipping label very quickly. So I was able to just send the optic right back out. And it took a little while to get it back. It took about a month, which I was a little upset with, especially after only having it for 4 months and never really beating on it very hard when I first got it, right? I mean, I just got this thing. I just spent so much money on it. I was kind of babying it a little bit, not being super hard. The replacement optic that I got back, it's actually the same optic, and it has been like no issues. I used brand new Energizer batteries, and I have absolutely not babied this. I've been hard on it, to put it frankly. So to kind of talk about the battery issue originally, apparently from researching batteries, apparently if you let batteries, the specific battery that they include with the RMR, if you let it sit for too long, say in the back storage room shelf of a gun shop, the original battery can lose its capacity, and it will simply just die sooner. So if you buy an RMR from a gun shop, or really from anywhere, I personally would just throw the battery it came with away, go out to Walmart, wherever, buy some Energizer 2032s, and you're gonna be good. Since I got the optic back, I've put another in excess of 6,000 rounds through it. It's gone past that 4-month window. It's been about 7 months since I got it back, and I've had no issues, no loss in brightness. The optic's been working as it should. And you know, anything can happen, but I really believe that, like, I don't know what was up with the electronics, but Trijicon was very, very good about repairing that. And that is another reason why you should have irons that you can see through your optic window, because shit happens. All right, I'm back. Gobi. What's next? So, I mentioned earlier when you present the handgun that you need a certain amount of muscle memory to be able to pull it up and find that dot. So a lot of people ask, you know, when do I move to a red dot? When do I make the transition from iron sights to having a red dot? It's so hard to give a borderline round count of like, once you hit X number of rounds, that's when you move to a red dot. That's just not how it works. It's a lot based on proficiency and skill. You got to know when you're good. Like, don't be cocky, be humble. You know, a lot of people tell me I'm a good shooter, and I think I suck compared to people that I watch and look up to in the shooting community, because you can always be better, right? However, if you're not able to perform with iron sights, a red dot's not going to help you. You can't buy proficiency with a firearm. You just simply can't. Skill trumps gear, and you can't buy skill. So what you really need to do before you buy an optic for your pistol is you need to put in the work with irons. You need to get good, be able to perform, and recognize that you're on a level of being able to make fast, consistent, and accurate hits. And not just for a little bit, get really good. I mean, an optic isn't going to make the difference between, you know, sucking and being amazing. You're not just gonna put a red dot on your handgun and automatically all of your issues go away. You need to have those issues worked out with iron sights before you ever move to a red dot. Otherwise, it's just going to be a crutch that's going to, in the long run, hold you back.
You're ready.
Ready.
Shooter, stand by. 1.14.
So, in kind of a closing to this, we're just gonna walk through the pros and cons real quick. This is gonna take like 10 seconds. So for the pros, it's easier for your brain to process. You have the ability to stay target focused. It is easier to be more precise, especially shooting at a distance. And the clout, you gotta throw that in. The cons, the optic can fail, but again, we've talked about remedies to that and fail safes like the iron sights, and honestly just being able to point shoot your hand-eye coordination. Again, Sage Dynamics has an excellent video on that I highly recommend watching. And cost, so stop being poor. So guys, just like Grand Thumb says, you know, red dots on pistols are cool, but you're not gonna be able to use them without training. You're not gonna look cool without training. So go take training. Even if you don't go take a professional training class, take the time to use the resources that you have in the year of 2020, i.e. the internet, and educate yourself. And then go to the range and actually train. Go practice. Get the reps in. Even in dry fire, get the reps in. You're not going to be good with irons or a red dot if you don't put in the work. And that's the most important thing that this all boils down to. Like I said, the red dot's not going to make you a better shooter. Doing the work will make you a better shooter. And the red dot, it's going to be like going from driving a Honda Accord to a Ferrari. Like, you just feel like a rock star. If you're already good with irons and you move to a red dot, you're gonna be like, yeah, this is what's up. But if you don't know how to shoot with irons, you're not gonna be able to do it with a red dot either. So, guys, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate the support. I mean, hell, we're up to like over 400 subscribers, which is wild because I'm just some idiot who likes to shoot guns making YouTube videos, but I really appreciate the support. If you don't mind, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that little bell notification icon if you care about me enough to actually want to like see my videos when they go live. And be sure to check me out on Instagram at student_operator. Thanks a lot, guys. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.